Hi, everybody. This is Nanette Kennedy with Humanities Team and the Evolution Revolution, and we are reading The Storm Before the Calm by Neale Donald Walsch. And welcome, everybody. And Linda is our infamous reader, and she's going to get us started and let us know where we are page-wise. Take it away, Linda.
Okay, thank you, everybody. So we are on page 173, conversation number 22. The mysterious third thing that can change our world. Can you imagine a new story for all of us to live and to teach our children based on those ideas? I get so excited about it, I can't stand it. But now I want to share with you some mechanical information. I mean, there are some mechanics in the universe that we all need to know about if we want to put a daring new story into place. So let me tell you now about the great secret that reveals itself in all life, but only upon the closest examination. And you'll see in just a very little short time how this relates to our entire conversation. Should we choose to overlay the secret I'm about to tell you upon humanity's cultural story, everything suddenly makes sense, and we suddenly have a formula, a mechanism, an approach to living of human life that works. Indeed, it is our failure to live this secret as part of our old cultural story that has turned our story from a dream into a nightmare. The revealing of this secret and the placement of it at the foundation of our new story will turn our long global nightmare back into a dream again. And no, this particular secret is not the law of attraction. This is not immediately apparent aspect of life, is what I have come to call the secret of 3 in 1. It has been unveiled for us in conversations with God. All things are one, says CWG, and everything in the one thing is divided into 3 parts. Everything. At first glance, which is the glance that most people use when viewing the world, it looks as if everything is divided into 2 parts. We appear to be living in a dyad. In fact, all is a triad. When you do not see it that way, we experience a distorted reality. God is one essence divided into 3, what certain theologies call Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Humans are one being divided into 3, body, mind, spirit. Time is one moment divided into 3, past, present, future. Space is one place divided into 3, here, there, and in between. There is only one place, one moment, one being, and one essence. The whole of all is divided into 3 expressions. What does this have to do with humanity's new cultural story? Everything. It is the shift we will make within our story from a dyad reality to a triad reality that is going to change our entire experience. The problem is how we are living our lives right now, or the problem with how we are living our lives right now is that we see things mostly in 2s. We see male, female, good, evil, up, down, fast, slow, big, small, hot, cold, black, white, and so on. We see dyads where there are triads. It is the shift we will make within our story from dyad reality to triad reality that is going to change our entire experience. When we see triads, when we see male, female, both, good, evil, both, up, down, both, fast, slow, both, big, small, both, and so on, then we realize that while a thing appears to be either good or bad, in reality, it is both at the same time, which is a third thing altogether. While a thing appears to be either up or down, in reality it is the same time, which is a third thing altogether. While a thing appears to be either fast or slow, in reality it is both at the same time, which is a third thing altogether. Let me repeat that in just a little different way, because this is very, very important. This is about seeing the dyad together rather than as separate elements. In other words, we stop seeing either this or that, but both this and that simultaneously, which is a third thing altogether. That is, it is a third thing altogether. This mysterious third thing is so mysterious that we don't even have a word for it. We are so used to conceiving of our world as a dyad that we have not created a way to talk about this third thing. We even doubt that such a thing exists. We wonder, how can two things be a third thing called both? Simple. Point of view. It depends on how you look at it. The definition of everything depends on how you look at it. Nothing is as it seems. And the moment you change your perspective, you see that. Therefore, there is no such thing as reality. There is only the reality you create by the way you are looking at something. You are creating your reality through the use of perspective. So it turns out that this mysterious third thing is really only one thing divided into three parts. A thing is either good or bad, or something in between. A thing is either up or down, or something in between. A thing is either fast or slow, or something in between. It is the in-betweenness for which we have no word. Or do we? Don't look now, but I've just described the triune reality that is the one thing that some of us call God. The Roman Catholic Church teaches this exact theology. It speaks of a three-in-one God called the Holy Trinity. There is much in Catholic doctrine with which I do not agree, but this one message that cuts right to the core of what is so. A thing is neither good nor bad. It is something in between. It is that in-betweenness that holds both good and bad in place and makes the experience of them possible, and making the experience of God possible by creating the illusion of not God possible through the producing of a contextual field within which divinity can be fully realized in relative terms, is the way that life works. Our world of duality is created by the triune reality of God, so that divinity itself may know itself in its own experience. What we've done here on earth is produce the illusion of a dyad out of the reality of a triad. And in this way, we have created duality, including the greatest duality of all, life and death. You see, only a triad creates the possibility of a continuum. A dyad cannot. Try to get that. Try to picture that in your mind. Draw a line that creates a dyad. You have one thing over here and another thing over there. You can only go back and forth along the line. You cannot continue moving forward. You cannot endlessly move in one direction, because sooner or later you reach the end of the line. Then you have to double back. You have to turn around and go the other way. That's the problem with dyads and with a dyad world. It violates the first principle of evolution. Evolution moves forever forward. Now draw a second line in your mind. Let this connect 3 points. Now you have a triangle. Now you've created eternity. Along this line, you can move endlessly forward. You will visit the same places you've visited before, but you haven't gone back to them. You've encountered them again. And that is not the same thing at all. This is what you do in your life, in your endless life. However, using your endless imagination, you have imagined that you can actually reach the end of a line that has no end. You call this death. You say you have reached the end of the line. But once you get there, you see that the line does not end. It merely turns. It goes up, up, up to the third point. The journey never ends. It never, ever ends. That is where we all go. And then, after remaining a while, we come down the other side of the triangle. We are, in human lingo, on the other side. We slip down quietly, reaching the beginning of the line. And then we travel the baseline between what we call birth and death all over again. Some people call this reincarnation. The journey never ends. It never, ever ends. The trick is making the journey a joy. The trick to making the journey a joy is to understand what is actually happening, to understand the nature of ultimate reality. All things are one. All things are one thing. There is only one thing, and all things are a part of the one thing there is. Yet in this physical reality, this world of our illusion, we do well to think in terms of the three things in one, the Holy Trinity. We do well to get out of our dyad world and into a triad reality, to embrace what I call the triune truth. A thing is neither this nor that, but a third thing altogether. The third thing that's the one thing. Are you getting this? Are you stringing it all together? I hope you are, because all this has to do with our new cultural story and what it will tell us and our children and our children's children about life and how it is. And that, my friends, will change everything. Opening our vision. In the new world of three, we will see that it is impossible to be only male or female, but that the reality is we are both, only fast or slow, but that the reality is things are both, only black or white, but the reality is it's both. It's been said that when we stop seeing things as either black or white, and seeing things shades of gray, we have grown up. It is said that when we stop insisting that a thing is either this or that it can be this and that, we have at last matured. It is said when we shift from an either or reality to a both and reality, we become masters. This is not how we master ourselves. This is how we master our world. Since Conversations with God showed me this, I have taken to saying things like, this is bad unless it's not. This is good unless it's not. This is just what I need unless it isn't. I can't do it unless I can. We're going to be late unless we aren't. I hate asparagus unless I don't. Throughout all life, everything is an expression of the one thing that is, in varying degrees. Suddenly, I found myself open to the possibilities. Possibilities I'd never considered before. Not the least of these was the possibility that there might be something I don't fully understand about something, the understanding of which could change everything. I began seeing things as degrees of the only thing there is. I was given by God in the CWG dialogue an example I could use to help maintain this or explain this to others. We describe any given day as either hot or cold, whereas they're in one thing called temperature. Throughout all of life, everything is an expression of one thing that is, in varying degrees. I suddenly began to see life in shades of gray. What a growing up this was. The most important part of the trick. And once again, you might say, yes, very nice, very true. But what does this have to do with our new cultural story? And I would answer once again, everything. Then I would ask you to listen just a tiny bit longer. I would say that it would really benefit you to comprehend the implications of the fact that our dyad is not a dyad at all. First, let me say that the way to deal with the fact that life on Earth is an illusory experience is not to sidestep, it's not to step outside of the illusion. That would defeat its entire purpose, but to live within the illusion, knowing that it's an illusion. The idea is to continue to perform the magic, but to remember that you are doing so. Or as we have it from somewhat more eloquent source, to be in this world but not of it. When we know that this whole experience is an illusion, we can work with the biggest illusion of all, the illusion of duality, in such a way that the illusion serves us rather than getting in our way. We seek to have the ultimate experience of life on Earth, both in our personal world as well as our collective experience. Most of us, our personal world, what I call our individual life, has been lived primarily as if we were two-part beings, made up of body and mind. Our more outward experience, what I call our collective life, cut into as well, with our most important and impacting group activities primarily made up of economics and politics. Yet there is a third aspect of our individual lives that complements the body-mind dyad, and it's a third aspect of our collective lives that complements the economics, political, and politics dyad. We've not paid nearly enough attention to the third thing in our individual lives, which I am going to call the soul, and we have not paid nearly enough attention to that third thing in our collective lives either, that I'm going to call our culture. Fascinatingly, this third thing in both cases, the most important thing of all. Why, then, have we not paid much attention to it? Because we have not understood its importance. Only relatively recently, as the history of mankind is measured, have we begun to grasp the relevance, indeed, the critical relevance of this third aspect of individual and collective life. That awareness has finally come upon us only in these most recent millennia, and full force only in perhaps the most recent century as a part of our species' long evolutionary process. We are, on the scale of the universe, still a very young species. A lot of people like to think of humans as highly evolved. In fact, humanity has just emerged from its infancy on this planet. In their new book, New World, New Mind, Robert Ornstein and Paul Ehrlich place this in perspective in one mind-boggling paragraph. Suppose Earth's history were charted on a single year's calendar, with midnight January 1 representing the origin of Earth, and midnight December 31st, the present. And each day of Earth's year would represent 12 million years of actual history. On that scale, first form of life, a simple bacterium, would arise sometime in February. More complex life forms, however, came much later. The first fishes appear around November 20th. The dinosaurs arrive around December 10th and disappear on Christmas Day. The first of our ancestors, recognizable as human, would not show up until the afternoon of December 31st. Human Homo sapiens, our species, would emerge around 11:45 p.m. All of this has happened in recorded history would occur in the final minute of the year. We are still a very young species. We are still a very young species. Did you get that? Did you feel the impact of that? Don't let it pass you. Read that again if you have to let it really sink in. You've got to get this because you've got to know where we are in the overall scheme of things. Because this explains a lot. Early in our process of growth as a species, human beings were like children, paying only to their most basic needs. A, getting things done that help them stay alive. They've shaped into something called economics. And B, getting others in their clan or tribe to help them stay alive, later constructed as politics. Having noted that, I like to think that we're now living the last seconds of that final minute. We're approaching midnight in the garden of the gods. My dear, wonderful friend and colleague, Barbara Marx Hubbard, calls December 22nd, 2012, day one. She is absolutely convinced that this is the day our true birth into cosmic community of evolved sentient beings, and that the time up until now has been, figuratively speaking, our species' gestation period. If you would like more on this remarkable woman and her breathtaking insights into life and tomorrow, you will immensely enjoy The Mother of Invention, her biography, which I had the great fortune to write, and which is truly the story of us all. How evolution brings revolution. Because we are now a tiny bit more evolved, we are no longer devoting all our time to our most basic needs. A, getting things done that help us stay alive, economics, and B, getting others around us to help us stay alive, politics. We're now becoming concerned with C, a third thing, quality of life, which might loosely be called our culture. And this is foundationed in our culture story, our sacred and valued myths about who our God is, what our social rules are, how we live together as a community, what we believe, why we marry, how we create families, and even how we make music, what we sing, when we dance, what we call art. This is the soul of us. And when we begin to discover as we evolve how important this was to us, began not being very happy with living a two-level existence, either in our outside or individual lives, nor with what two-tiered formula had produced. So we've had revolutions and more revolutions, and then still more after those all over the world. And conflict, not just within countries, but between countries. Because while our politics were a little different, we all wanted the same things, though we went about getting them in different ways. And while our economics were a little different, we've had many ideas on Earth of how economics should be dealt with. But we all have wanted the same basic results. Our cultural stories have been widely divergent. from country to country, we've all tried to use our local economic system to get us what we need to stay alive. From country to country, we've all tried to use our local political system to produce the cooperation we need to help each other stay alive. And when there came a growing awareness of the part of life that we weren't paying that much attention to before, we saw how different we were culturally from each other, and we found ourselves unable to avoid a clash of civilizations. This clash has produced flashpoints around the world for decades, and increasingly since the turn of the century. It was predicted in a thesis on the post-Cold War New World Order, originally proposed by the late political scientist Samuel P. Huntington. The theory was formulated in 1992 in the 1992 lecture at the American Enterprise Institute, which was then developed in 1993, a 1993 article in the journal Foreign Affairs titled "The Clash of Civilizations?" In response to Francis Fukuyama's 1992 book, The End of History and the Last Man. Huntington later expanded his thesis in a 1997 text, The Clash of Civilizations and the Remaking of a World Order. And so we see now, internally within nations and externally between countries, the people of Earth are tired of the way life is. I mentioned very early in our conversation that we need to be clear about that. We need to understand that dissent, including violent dissent, is going to continue all around the world until things get better. I said that what I am seeing everywhere is that the human race is losing patience with itself. We do not want the kind of world we've created. Like a dissatisfied artist standing back from the canvas, we've decided that we're not pleased with the picture we've painted. And so we're warring with ourselves and we're warring with each other because we don't know what else to do. You see, we thought it was a political problem. Then we thought it was an economic problem. Those were the only two things that we seriously considered because we thought our collective life was a dyad. And it's the only thing that's occurred to us lately that it's not about dyad. It's about the third thing that makes the triad. And because more and more of us see this, it's become very clear that we can't paint a better picture by using the same brush strokes in the same places with the same colors that we've used before. Something's got to change. It's time to tear up the canvas and start over. It is this awareness that is producing the overhaul of humanity. It is what has happened as a result of our species maturing and thus seeking, yearning, and demanding now to bring our culture into the equation with our economics and our politics. It is no longer acceptable to most of us to simply be trying to make a living and get others to help us stay alive. Human beings now want to make a life rather than a living, and this is making all the difference in the world. I mean that literally. I mean it is making all the difference in the world. Now, my dear and wonderful friends, if we don't keep up with that difference, with that shift in humanity's overall priorities from survival in life to quality of life, we're going to find ourselves at the effect of, rather than at cause in, the overhaul of humanity. Points I hope you'll remember. All things are one, and everything in the one thing is divided into three parts. The journey of life never ends. The way to deal with the fact that life on Earth is illusory experience is not to sidestep or step outside of the illusion, but to live within the illusion, knowing that it's an illusion. Humans now want to make a life rather than a living. This is making all the difference in the world. We are approaching the day of our true birth into the cosmic community of evolved sentient beings. Actions I hope you'll take. Look at our world closely and see if you can identify any dyads that are really triads. When you notice one, explore in your mind what the third thing is and what your experience of this item in life would be if you wrapped that third thing into your considerations of it. Decide now to become part of the process by which all of us rewrite the cultural story of humanity. Place before our species a new set of beliefs that will produce a new set of behaviors that will bring into the equation and bring into balance our culture as well as our economy and our politics. End of chapter. I just have to say, I think it's interesting that I woke up
got back
thinking
in. I
about
missed
this.
the whole thing because my computer's whacked out.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So, Linda, why don't you lead the discussion?
Okay. Well, I was saying I just woke up this morning thinking about exactly this, thinking about the fact that we hear the phrase body, mind, spirit all the time. But I think that society in general has limited those thoughts to when they're in church. And we don't realize, the spirit, our soul is what lives on. I think that collectively, human beings society doesn't operate in this realm. And this is the key. This is the key right here. It's my belief. Mary?
I agree. The thing I wanted to comment on is that black and white and shades of gray thing, because I had a friend once who recounted how she said to her therapist, "Hey, I think I'm doing better. I don't see everything in terms of black and white. I'm starting to see shades of gray." And her therapist said, "Great, now what about colors?" Just wanted to throw that out there because there is an evolution beyond shades of gray, which is the colors. So thank you. That's all.
Well, we really are a young species, especially when you look at that timeline that was given.
Very much so. And that's kind of encouraging because, you know, this idea that we are sort of expanding and growing now as a species and wanting more, you know, not just for ourselves, but wanting more out of life than just this struggle to survive. Hopefully, that means we'll evolve like we're supposed to. I just love all your beautiful faces.
We love you. I was looking here where he says, suddenly I found myself open to possibilities. And it reminded me of the Matt Kahn phrase. I don't know what good can come from this, but only good will come. Like, once we open up to the idea that we're not in charge here, right? We're being breathed. This is God's play. We're here in God's play, being God's individual experience. And we don't know what's going to happen. But it's really a function of our ego to try and know those things and anticipate them and figure them out. What's going to happen next? And all of that is part of that keeping us safe, keeping us alive. It's the body's functioning. And as soon as we can get to a point where we realize that that's what the body's doing, but that we're not the body, and that there's more going on here, now we can be open to new possibilities. Now we can realize that we may not know what's happening. I don't know what's happening. I mean, I think yesterday was a terrific high, and now today is a terrible low because Alex Trebek is dead. And it's just like, it just reminded me, you know, you just don't know. You don't know. And our responsibility is in ourselves and in our response to what we find out and what we experience and what happens, not looking out here and trying to judge or anticipate what it means. Over.
I was also thinking about the both and the in between in terms of the political spectrum during that portion, because I tend to be very, you know how I am, Linda, very us and them-ish about the current situation because it's very painful to me what's happening. But, I think it will be very good for me to allow for the middle of the spectrum more and, you know, be more accepting of people where they are. Um, and also the allow for the new things. I liked that a lot because, like, the idea that, I'm not good at organizing things, or maybe I am, who knows? I don't like doing the laundry, but maybe I do. Maybe I could. Just applying that in the concrete aspects of my life that I find difficult to deal with. I hate mopping the floor, but maybe I don't. Who knows? Maybe today mopping the floor will feel joyful. I'll allow for that possibility, you know? So allowing, because that's a phrase I've actually used with people sometimes when they were very stuck in a particular thing, like I have this illness that's never going to get better, is a good example. And I just said, how about allow for the possibility that it might, it could change, something could shift. So I love having it pointed out to me to use that phrase on myself around all sorts of things. So thank you. Thank you, Neale Donald Walsch, for putting that in your book, and thank you, Linda, for highlighting it.
And I love your beautiful face too.
Thank you. Thank you. I know I'm one of you beauties too. And we all live in this love bubble together for this hour, and I value it so highly.
Bima, how are you today?
Oh yes, I'm okay. It's Father's Day today in Sweden.
Oh.
So I have visited my son with he has 5 children and 4 of them were there. And I'm reminded of death because my father died in 1960 after the pandemic of the Asian flu. So I know what can happen. And when I think of him, I feel the energy, the love, and the presence that he always had. And my son's father died when my son was 7. So he has also that experience that his father died very early. So life and death are so united. And there is no separation. And as my daughter died 17 years ago, as you know, and the presence, it reminds me now when all this epidemic with the COVID-19 and all this is discussed, death, dying. What is it about? I can't take it in that it is something bad. It is part of our life. And we are cosmic beings. We belong to this big cosmos. Why should we separate? Why shouldn't we be united from within? And then we will make ceremonies instead of horrible. And why should I go around and be sad my whole life because my father died and my daughter died? Why should I not be connected to the source of life? And I think that is what this is reminding us about, that it's not duality, it is unity. It's oneness. That's why we are here. So thank you for reading. I get very inspired by reading that. And I felt that. I felt that oneness when I was a little girl. And it has never left me, somehow. That's why my daughter chose to be with me when she died. So, I mean, I don't know, I can't get out of it really, but I mean, it's not so easy to join with similar-minded people. So that's why it's very nice to be here. I love that. So thank you, over.
Thank you, Bima.
I see that as such a good problem to have, not being able to get out of that unity of oneness.
Yeah, it's the best problem I've ever had, and it's not leaving. What should I do? I lived in that space for 74 years now.
Yeah, that's so beautiful and inspiring.
Thank you. Yeah, it is a gift.
How about you, Sarah?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. I'm just so happy for the results yesterday. I'm still taking it in.
Yeah.
I'm buzzing.
Yeah, Shibana, you want to do the meditation?
Absolutely. Thank you, God, for showing us what we all know is that it is 3 in 1, a triad, that we don't live in a bipolar world. Thank you for giving us this opportunity to share Bima's problem, that there is only unity. And as she said, that's the best problem ever. And thank you for Sarah being so excited that Mr. Biden has won. All of us love you and look forward to spreading the gray between black and white. That's where we want to live. That's where the joy is. And we praise you that we're doing that together here now. Amen. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much. Big hug to everyone. Love
And
you.
to you,
Shibana.
right back.
What was Europe's reaction? Like where you are in Bima and Sarah, what was Was there an audible reaction or to yesterday?
For me, it's more in my small group of people who were all feeling the same, but I don't really know about the wider world yet.
I am in Sweden, so I don't. I'm just touched. You mean the president thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I heard in Germany they were ringing bells. You know, there were some.
No, nothing. I haven't heard anything. But what I myself appreciate is that the woman, besides the vice president, that there is a woman who is strong and has roots in different. That can be very. I think we need a change, and I mean, no one is perfect, but we need. It was needed a change. So I felt happy when I saw what happened. And we never know what it will become something out of that. We don't. They haven't realized the oneness really yet, have they?
Right. No. We're a long way from that.
Have to send that to them.
Right.
That I think I told that once before when I was sitting in the car and listened to radio one day when I was going with the car to a place where there was a meditation course, a group of meditators who I know very well, and they were talking politics, and I took it off. And then something said inside me, take it on and send light to them. And so I did that. And then the person said, all politicians should meditate every morning. I have never heard any politician say something like that. So maybe we can influence. We are here for some reason.
Yeah.
Right.
I want to say, not just a woman, but a woman of color.
Yeah.
Like that is huge.
Yeah. I listened to her and what she's telling the young ones. It's good.
Yeah.
So good luck in US.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, though, Bima. To remember, like every once in a while, I'll change channels on the TV so that I'm getting, different exposure. And yesterday, out of curiosity, I turned Fox News on to see what they were saying. But I didn't remember to do that. I wasn't triggered or emotional or caught up in it at all. I was just watching it, and observing that they're kind of off in a different direction. But there's no reason why we can't hold them in that love while we're watching. So that's an excellent reminder. Excellent. Yeah.
Yes, thank you. I don't know if you can hear me. Can you guys hear me?
Uh-huh.
Yes.
Well, my computer keeps doing these weird things.
I thought you were getting a new one. No?
No, I got the new one, but I haven't set it up yet. And it's got Windows 10 and I'm used to Windows 7.
Oh, God.
Yeah, I know. I much prefer Windows 7. This computer that I'm on came with Windows 10. I had somebody put Windows 7 on it because I thought Windows 10 was a joke. But
well, the problem is you get into with that. Yeah. I was going to say the problem you get into is that you'll end up in a legacy situation eventually. So you're going to you'll have to adopt or adapt to 10. I know, but because there'll come a time when they're not going to support it anymore. They won't support 7, and that's probably why stuff isn't working right. Because everything else is for the new software.
Oh, that's true. You're right. I'll just open up the new computer and learn when. So.
I know it's not easy, but you got to bite that bullet.
Yeah, in the big scope of things, it's nothing. So it shouldn't be that difficult. I will become one with my computer. So.
Very good. Very good.
There you go. Shades of
Well,
gray. Shades of gray.
Thank you. Thank you.
Without the computers, we wouldn't be here. Isn't
That's
that
right.
amazing?
Yeah,
So we are one with them.
that's
couldn't
right.
Yeah.
That when I was young, I couldn't imagine this.
Oh, I don't think any of us did. Other than watching the Brady Bunch TV show, which is what we look like in this Zoom configuration. And the Brady Bunch, not familiar with it, was a comedy situation comedy where the family all started out in these boxes, and they would look over at each other, and they'd look down at the person below them, look up. That's the only thing I can connect that to. But I love you all, and thank you all for thinking of us Americans as we've gone through the very dark night, and it's it's been a it's been something else. Is all I can say. But I appreciate you all, and we'll see each other next week.
Yeah, I love
Sounds
you.
good,
Nanette.
Nanette.
All right,
Love
love you
you.
guys too. All right,
Beaming love
bye.
at you.
Bye bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.